reference in that reading that the people in the crowd standing there thought that God speaking was like thunder. I reckon God must speak a lot in Darwin. Just lately, there's been a lot of God speaking to us. That's not anything to do with anything. I just like that reference. Sir, we want to see Jesus. In the church that I grew up in and was ordained from, on the lectern where you stood to preach, there was a laminated thing, like a really nicely done, made at the trophy shop laminated thing on the lectern, just along the bottom. Sir, we would see Jesus. And when you got up to preach there, you could see that, and it was to remind you that you had a task to do as you stood before the people. They want to see Jesus. You know it's a bit old reference because Uniting Church we wouldn't put sir anymore. We might put hey you or something like that. We want to see Jesus. But it was powerful then, and this passage for me is still powerful now. Let's see if we can see Jesus this morning. Nice Greek girls are supposed to do 3 things in life, says Tula's father in my big fat Greek wedding. Marry a nice Greek boy, make babies, and feed everyone till the day we die. This sounding familiar? Any Greek girls? Not that Tula, who was a 30-something single, needs reminding. Day after boring day, she works in the Greek restaurant with her parents, her untidy hair falling around her face, her body hidden in, unattractive kind of clothes. And one day, Prince Charming walks into the diner. A handsome, sensitive, artsy guy named Ian. Wait for it. Does Ian sound Greek to you? No, that's the problem. Tula falls in love with a guy who is not a nice Greek boy. Not surprisingly, Tula's Mr. Right becomes her parents' Mr. Wrong. A big Zeno, her father moans, with the long hairs on top of his head. Her father wonders aloud of Tula's fiancé. Is he a good boy? I don't know. Is he from a good family? Is he respectful? I don't know. Eventually, a date is set. However, for this clash of cultures wedding, you can almost hear the us and them screeching and colliding as the story develops. Ian's uppity parents writhe in embarrassment as they arrive at Tula's get-acquainted party. The limo pulls up to the curb, and there, amidst the modest suburban homes, is Tula's house, a miniature version of the Parthenon, complete with Corinthian columns and statues, and horror of horrors, the lamb being spit roast on the front lawn. By the movie's end, our pale wasp family, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant family, finds in the Greeks a robust and exotic community. Though unorthodox, they mime, spitting on each other for good luck. And both cultures are able to move beyond their suspicions and form a new family. But you just never know what happens when the Greeks arrive. Greeks. That's who arrives at the Passover festival in our Gospel reading today. Technically, the word refers to people of Tula's kin, people of Greek descent, language and culture. But by the time of the Caesars, Greek meant anyone influenced by Greek culture, most of whom lived in towns and cities rather than the rural countryside. But among the pious Jews in Jerusalem, the word Greek had taken on its broadest meaning. There are only two groups in the world. Jews, a group of people held together by descent, language and culture, and Greeks, the rest of the world. John tells us that some Greeks, that is the non-Jewish types, had come to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. And they paid a visit to Philip. Hey, we want to meet your leader, they say. Please wait right here, Philip says, and I'll get right back to you. Philip, casually turns the corner. Then out of sight, he does a mad dash over to Andrew. Hey, Andrew, whispers Philip out of breath. We've got a problem. Some Greeks want to see Jesus. Greeks? Andrew responds incredulously. Are they good boys? We don't know. From good family? Respectful? We don't know. Apparently so undecided about what to do with the Greeks, they take their request to Jesus. At this point, it's not entirely sure what Jesus will say about these outsiders. Life had been so simple and tidy to this point. Israelites, no problem. All of the disciples were true blue Jewish. They spoke the same language. They ate the same matzo ball soup. They swapped the same fish stories, lived in the same towns. They owned the same history. What about Hellenized Jews? That would be tougher. Hellenized Jews lived outside Jerusalem, spoke different languages, and held less stringently to the law of the Torah than Israelite Jews. But the writer shoves it even further in front of us. He asks the church of his day, what about the Greeks? That's everyone else in the world, from the Greek islands right down to the bottom of Africa. Now that's risky. Bringing Greeks into the group, a gospel that includes them, imagine that. Philip is so unsure of the reaction that Jesus might have towards Greeks that he scampers over to check with Andrew. And neither of them is sure about what to do with these Greeks. So they form a committee of two and approach Jesus about the Greek problem. Now let's stop this story for a moment and make some assumptions. Why do these Greeks approach Philip in the first place? You'd think that Peter was the man to get past. He's the boss, isn't he? Or James and John, the ones that always get a mention. In John's Gospel, he's silent about that, so we don't know exactly. However, we do know that Philip is a Greek name, which means lover of horses. Does that remind you of any 99-year-olds that you know or can think of? Phil the Greek? Okay. Andrew is also a Greek name. And it means, I'm happy to report, manly. Why are you laughing? Andrew, stand up. Show them what manly looks like back there. There we are. That's obviously who they were thinking about. Andrew. I wonder if maybe it's precisely that why the Greeks came to Philip and Andrew. At least the name suggested something like a Greek bridge to Jesus. At any rate, lover of horses galloped off to talk to Manly, and together, lover of horses and Manly go to Jesus, who in this story will become a lover of souls. Something else about Philip and Andrew that I think the writer wants us to know. Andrew and Philip were the first people to become disciples in John's Gospel. And not only that, but right from the beginning, they're mission-driven. Come and see, Jesus calls out to Andrew in chapter 1, and so he does. Andrew and a friend come and stay a day with Jesus. They sit in his living room, have a quiet supper, exchange a bit of chatter. Then Andrew abruptly excuses himself from the table and says, I'll be right back. And an hour later, Andrew returns with his brother Simon. So the two pull up chairs and join up as Jesus' followers. The next day, the same thing happens to Philip. Jesus calls out to Philip, "Come and see." And Philip reacts just like Andrew. Back in a few, he rushes off to share this invitation with Nathanael. And even though technically Nathanael hasn't received any invitation from Jesus, and he's pretty skeptical about can anything good come out of Nazareth, he goes with Philip. Come and see. So we have in Andrew and Philip two mission-minded people who want to bring people to Jesus. And John wants us to remember that. Can you imagine how differently the story would have turned out if they'd gone to Peter? And Peter had been the gatekeeper for Greeks that day. Given Peter's tendency to shoot his mouth off a little bit. Greek boys, A little bit far from the Acropolis, aren't you boys? What do you want? You want to meet Jesus? Well, we're a very exclusive group here, boys. I'll see you later. Something like that. Better keep moving. No vacancy here. Nothing to see. I wonder how Peter would have reacted. And this episode might not have made it into the gospel at all. Peter and the Greeks would have mixed just about as well as Ian and Tula's parents, just like oil and water. But what is so astonishing about this story is that even such staunch missionary types as Philip and Andrew are unsure about Jesus' policy towards Greeks. Maybe this is a boundary issue story, a church boundary issue. We don't dare go where angels fear to tread. After all, there must be a limit as to whom Jesus is inviting into our groups. So they wonder, Jewish, Hellenized Jews? Most probably. God-fearers? Maybe with a little bit of catechism and teaching on the side. But Greeks? So Philip and Andrew go to Jesus with this request from the Greeks to meet with Jesus. Now let's just play with this definition of Greeks to mean anyone outside of our respective communities of faith. If we say that Greeks are anyone who is clearly different from us, then first of all, who are our Greeks? Are they older people or younger people? Asians? Africans? Indigenous? Do they wear high-vis clothes? Body jewellery? Which radio station do they listen to? That would actually be the acid test. Do they think that Amazing Grace is a brand new TV show that they better watch? Or do they know it to be a classic Christian hymn? Do they only encounter bread and wine at fancy parties? According to recent reports, only a small percentage of our congregations have grown by even one person in the last 5 years. We can chalk up an impressive amount of reasons why our congregations are at a plateau or in decline. Demographics, lack of interest, lack of energy, we're having our own crisis of faith. The very idea of evangelism conjures up unpleasant images, and so on. However, we fill in the blank. However we fill in the blank, it's been a while since Greeks have found a home with us. Present company accepted, Anna. It's been a while. In our Lenten study, we've been looking at the question, why does the church exist? Trying to answer it in some way. What would be your answer? Why does the church exist? If you don't know an answer to that, you need to be coming to the Lenten Bible study. In another survey that was taken, asking that very question, you might be surprised with those results. Why does the church exists? 89% of congregational respondents said the church's purpose is to take care of my families and my needs. 89%. I think that means keep the sheep that are in the pen happy. Only 11% pick this option. The church's purpose is to win the world for Jesus Christ. In fact, the answer that we've been exploring in the Lenten study is that according to the basis of union, our reason for existence is mission. In the great quote of Emil Brunner, as fire exists by burning, so the church exists by mission. In his book, Church for the Unchurched, George Hunter, great Methodist leader, describes a set of attitudes in our congregations that have worked against us in mission. Believe like us, adopt the same brand of doctrine as we do, behave like us, value the same rules as we do, share our experience, whether we like high church liturgy or praise music, adopt our experiences and, in short, become like us, talk like us, dress like us, see the world like us, share our taste from food to sports to our kind of music. I wonder if, in the context of this gospel lesson, we need to recover the ability to engage with Greeks. How do we do that? How do we do that during the week? How do we do that at coffee time in the hall after church? It's not that congregations dislike having newcomers, but sometimes the very congregations that champion the fact that they're one big family creates problems for the Greeks that are trying to break in. Because when you're on the outside looking in at the family, fellowship hour can become one very lonely time. So Philip and Andrew take the request to Jesus. Jesus, there's some Greeks who want to meet you. And in that rare, powerful moment, something connects deeply and passionately within Jesus. For the mere mention of Greeks triggers one of the greatest speeches in favour of blowing open every closed door, every locked door that the church owns. This is it. This is the hour of my glorification. I'm going to die, true enough, but that won't be the end. In my death will come forth a harvest of people, Jews and Greeks, who will benefit from my life. I'm giving my life away, same as you need to do, to bring honour to the Father. It's not the time to say, save me, save me. That's why I'm here, to bring honour to the Father. And when I'm lifted up, I'll draw all people, Tullers and Ians, meticulous moralists and loose-living immoralists, the discouraged, the defeated, whoever, to myself. No one could have known it at the time, but I reckon these Greeks pushed Jesus, just as Mary had earlier pushed Jesus into turning water into wine, into a momentary vision of what the totality of his entire mission, one that would impact all people, everywhere, with overflowing, lavish, life-satisfying, abundant possibilities that Jesus would offer to the world as his legacy. And the mission continues as we invite all and everyone to the celebration that God throws for us. Yeah, we need that little sticker on the lectern here. Sir, we would see Jesus. And I hope that this morning you catch a glimpse of Jesus. You see him. And that in this place, as you gather, this is a place where you see Jesus. And you know that he's reaching out to you. And that you're welcomed by him because of the welcome you receive here. If there are any Greeks here this morning, look out, because I've got a feeling you're going to be very warmly welcomed at the morning tea this morning. We look forward to making you all feel welcome, just as Jesus makes us feel welcome as we gather here. Let us pray. May we grow in anticipation of God's voice, a voice that speaks to us still. Let us hear and respond to the thunderous voice that calls to us. Thanks be to God.